Go ahead.
Addendum item 3 is an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Administration of the Dallas City Code by adding a new Article 22, amending Chapter 37, Police of the Dallas City Code by amending Article 3, 1, creating an Office of Community Police Oversight, 2, creating a Director Monitor position, 3, renaming the Dallas Citizens Police Review Board as the Community Police Oversight Board, 4, providing definitions, 5, providing duties, 6, providing for community engagement, 7, providing functions, 8, providing for a mediation process, 9, providing procedures for external administrative complaints, 10, providing procedures relating to critical incidents, 11, providing confidentiality requirements, 12, amending the requirements related to witnesses, 13, retitling the Technical Advisory Committee as the Technical Resource Panel, 14, amending the Technical Resource Panel, and 15, providing for further transparency. We do have 17 individuals who have signed up to speak on the item.
We'll do it the same way. We'll call up 6 or 7 at a time. Everybody's got 2 minutes. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. I'll call those speakers. When I call your name, please come forward and have a seat on the first row in the center section. David Lebrecht, Julio Acosta, Linda Russell, Deanna Johnston, Maureen Dickey, Callie Khan, Jessa Robo Inu Habakre, and Leroy Pena. You'll be given 2 minutes to speak. You may begin.
Thank you for coming down.
Mayor. My name is Dave Lebrecht. I live at 7946 Enclave Way here in Dallas. I currently am a member of the Dallas Citizen Police Review Board, who was appointed by Mark Clayton in 2017. Today is an historic moment for the city of Dallas in that you have the opportunity to create the Community Police Oversight Board and charge it with the authority to actually investigate citizen complaints about police misconduct, including critical incidents, and make meaningful findings and recommendations for change. The proposed ordinance amendment is before you today after many months of hard work by your Mayor Pro Tem Casey Thomas, Councilman Magoo, Assistant City Manager John Fortune, Chief Hall, various Dallas police associations, the Citizen Coalition, and various members of the Citizen Police Review Board who've come together to recommend this ordinance to you as a part of Chief Hall's vision for the 21st century policing. Today, please amend the ordinance as proposed.
Thank you.
Julio Acosta.
Good morning again. So my name is Julio Acosta, and now I'm speaking on behalf as a private person, Julio Acosta, and as Secretary for District 3 of LULAC, and as the Advocate Coordinator for North Texas Dream Team. What I want to say regarding the Civilian Review Board is that what you see here today is an effort that hasn't taken days or weeks. This is months and years in the making, and I really, really pray that you hear the voices of the people that are directly affected. And I pray that you do what is best for the people of the city of Dallas. And I pray that, honestly, I didn't expect for me to speak, so I didn't prepare remarks. But I'll speak from the heart. For too long, justice delayed is justice denied. And I really, really am praying, because I'm not speaking on behalf of Julio Acosta. My prayer is that I give you words that I believe in my faith tradition come from a higher power, or most high. And I believe that that most high wants us to care about each other and wants us to respect each other, but also respect each other's dignity and the divine spark that is in each of us. So my prayer is that the Lord and the Holy Spirit work in each of you, and that you do what is best for people. And my prayer, my personal prayer, is in the name of the Most High, in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Thank you all.
Linda Russell.
Mayor, City Council, I'm Linda Russell, 9016 McGuire's Bridge Drive, Dallas, Texas. I live in District 10. The reason I am here today is because you will be making a very important vote today concerning the Citizens Police Review Board. Will you vote to hamstring and hamper our wonderful Dallas local police by increasing the size and power of the board? Or will you vote to spend $1.5 million of our taxpayer money to strengthen the Dallas Police Board? Rather than spending this $1.5 million for the Dallas Police Review Board, I would rather for you to hire and train more policemen for our safety. If you do vote yes, you will make our police less effective and protective. So I strongly urge you to vote no. I am also greatly concerned about the coalition partners pushing for the passage of increased power for the CPRB. So in closing, I strongly urge you to vote no to keep our police local and to keep them effective. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Deanna Johnston.
Hi, my name's Deanna Johnston. I'm in District 11. I'm here to speak against expanding the Citizens Police Review Board. I think it should be abolished. The CPRB does not solve problems, but rather intensifies them and exploits them. They should not be rewarded for this by getting employment. Stirring up discontent is not a job. The coalition of the CPRB is comprised almost exclusively of left-wing radical agitators who have a built-in bias against the police. More rational conservative groups are conspicuously absent from this coalition. We weren't invited to the party. One of the coalition leaders was just arrested this week, and he doesn't have much respect for the law, which is
Stop.
Well, scofflaws.
Why do
So
people...
who honestly thinks it's a good idea for this coalition to exist, much less oversee the police? Who will oversee the CPRB? Even if my best friends were asked to participate in this coalition, I would be against it. First, because police already answer to entities who know about policing. Second, citizens have always been welcome to log complaints against the police. Third, why should any group have more say, more options, and more power than the rest of the citizenry? So when you ask, should this group be renamed and reorganized and put on the payroll, the answer is no. Taxpayers should not be asked to pay for a jobs program to employ this ill-conceived coalition. Dallas citizens are painfully aware that we have a broken-down skeleton police force, and we are mad about it. You, our city leaders, should be scrambling to rebuild our police force, not wasting time placating a hostile group intent on destroying it. The funds you plan to extort from us to employ the CPRB should be immediately put toward augmenting the police force. Now, do not bring this bureaucratic atrocity into City Hall and tell us to pay for it. Abolish the CPRB and rebuild the DPD.
Thank you.
Maureen Dickey.
Good morning. I'm Maureen Dickey.
Morning,
and Mr. Mayor and Councilman, I have a new respect for the work you do today. It's been most instructive. I'm against the Police Review Board because I don't think that we need to add another level of bureaucracy to the taxpayer. This is a bureaucracy that will have quite a large fiscal note. And I was disappointed to know that you all are going to vote today on this when probably the public at large is very unclear about what this means. So I have some questions for you. First of all, why was the other police review board, or whatever you call it, the citizens board, why was that disbanded? Why wasn't that beefed up? And why have these citizens that obviously failed in what they did let go? if this board has subpoena power, which is pretty tough, how is this board going to be able to find things? Let's say that they find a different finding than the the interior board, the internal board. Well, who takes precedent over this? Are there any requirements for the members of this board? Do they have any knowledge of criminal justice, of the law, of the Constitution? What kind of qualifications? Or worse, if they were just people that were anti-police and were going to vent their anger. I want to tell you that anything that's happened in the past has ramifications now. And so from a scientific point, I'm going to refer to a department in Philadelphia that studies this, in Detroit and in Houston, which both have police review boards and have had this for some years. Subsequently to those police boards being done, there was in Detroit, 10 years, there was a $35 million fiscal note on that 10 years in Detroit. And then in Houston, the crime rate went up exponentially, and the officers and recruitment went way down. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Callie Cohn.
Hello, my name is Callie Cohn. I'm here speaking in my personal capacity as a proud resident of District 14. I spoke earlier on this matter briefly and just want to say two things quickly. The first is I want to thank the council, the city manager's office, the police department, Chief Hall, and the existing police review board for the opportunities for immense amounts of public input into this process. This process has been ongoing for a long time, but there have been many opportunities for public input since January into this process, and for that, I thank you all. I think that this proposal is a very important way to strike a balance between transparency and accountability without overreaching the authority of the police chief. I will reiterate that we are here today as a result of community-driven change for economic justice, racial justice, and gender justice, and I urge you to vote yes for oversight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jesu Robo Inobakare.
My name is Jace Warobo Inabikari Jr., and I stand before you as a citizen of Dallas, District 6, Councilmember Omar Narvaez. I also stand before you as a member of the Citizens Police Review Board. And I also represent Alpha Phi Alpha, the Alpha Sigma Lambda chapter here in Dallas. First, I want to thank Mrs. Diane Ragsdale. Without your leadership and sacrifice and that of many others, we would not have made it to this point. Thank you, Mayor Rawlings, City Manager Broadnax, Police Chief Hall, the Office of the City Attorney, members of the Dallas City Council, especially Councilmember Kingston, for your support and needed tough words at times. My Councilmember Narvaez for your support, Mayor Pro Tem Thomas, Councilmember Magoo for keeping the channels of communication open, and Dr. Brian Williams and many of my fellow members of the Citizens Police Review Board and the Coalition for getting us to this point. But let's talk about this point for a minute. Let's talk briefly about this historic moment and this grand relay of civic activism on our path to this point right here, this moment right here. There have been many stops, many setbacks as we march on to progress. There are faces no longer here. There are new faces such as myself. But one thing is clear, there must be no more setbacks. There must be no more stops. Today, we thank you in advance for voting to pass this ordinance. But this is not the finish line. This is not the end. You must make sure that we have adequate funding. And we trust you to ensure to all of us that 20 years from now, we are not back here having this same conversation again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Leroy Pena.
My name is Leroy Pena. I'm the National Director of the Red-Handed Warrior Society. and I'm also an enrolled member of the Lipan Apache Tribe of Texas. I wanted to ask a question. I know I'm not allowed to ask, but just an open-ended question to the speakers here against the renaming the review board. Do y'all live in communities of color? Because those of us here representing the coalition, we do represent communities of color. We're having citizens come up to us and tell us the complaint process to report incidents of police misconduct is outdated and is ineffective. Now, I hear people making accusations at us coalition members that we are cop haters. We are not. We're here to try to get the best possible police force for our city is what we're trying to do. Now, I hear some people say that there's no funds for a review board, an enhanced review board, yet a few months ago, the city spent $400,000 on a study to look at the panhandling problem and got zero results. Now, $400,000 is, most of what is needed. Well, it's a good portion of what will be needed here. Now, speaking of the complaint process, we had something recently at the Intertribal Center involving an officer who overstepped his boundaries. And I'd like to speak with the chief about that sometime. But right now, we really need this in place because it helps increase the confidence that the public has in the Dallas Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll now call the remaining speakers. When I call your name, please come forward. Michael Waters, Melissa Perry, Minnie Caruth, Kevin Hicks, Brian Williams,
Thank you.
Edwin Robinson, Diane Benjamin, Carol Haynes, and Pamela Grayson. Your first speaker is Michael Waters.
Pastor.
Mayor and council, I don't want it to be lost upon us while we are here. Last September, a young black professional was shot dead in his own home. It is an unfortunate reality in American history that continuously it has been the blood of martyrs that has watered our movement. Back in February, I stood at the banks from which Emmett Till's body was brought up out of the water. On a number of occasions, I have stood by that church in Birmingham where 4 young girls were bombed into eternity. Our history is bloody and riddled with bodies. And I'm gripped by that reality today because it was this last December that I sat at a dinner table with Mrs. John, Mr. John, and both and sister. And the tears that continuously poured from their eyes were tears that only God's hand can wipe away. We cannot bring Bothan back, but we're here at this table because of his demise. It helped to advance. It helped to move this long overdue agenda item forward to bring us here today. So as we cast a vote for justice, as we seek once again to build the moral arc of the universe in the right way, we do so in the name of Bolton and so many others who cannot stand and speak for themselves today. But you have the power through your voice and through your vote to speak for them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Melissa Perry.
Melissa Perry, 75201. I'm in favor of the police review board with the citizens on it because we are talking about a board that Chief Hall mentioned was integrity-driven policing that is focused on building trust, strengthening relationships, and collaborating with the community. We are the community, and we need the people that are behind badges to represent that. We don't deserve to be gunned down in these streets. We don't deserve to be in our homes and have people come in and kill us and then provide X amount of excuses and reasons why that's justified. As council members, you are elected to represent the community. The community is what puts you in power. The community is begging and pleading with you to stop the racist history of policing in Dallas. There are problems, and if there weren't any problems, we wouldn't have to have even an internal investigations. Internal investigations is broken, and time again, we are told by city officials that there is a process. That process is broken. Otherwise, Amber Geiger would not be out on bond right now. There would not be other officers still walking around getting paid time off or just sitting behind desk duty. The system is broken, and we need the citizens to do something about it since our elected officials cannot. Do something different. I implore you to do something different. Those of you who will not be in office come the end of this election, this is a time for you to do something that will change history in Dallas and be known for something great versus continuing the same cycle of white supremacy and blue supremacy. We cannot continue that. And if you want us to stop being angry, this is the first step in making sure that we ensure justice for everybody in all communities. And the communities that are not affected by this can go about business as usual. But the majority of us are not seeing that same justice in our own homes. And by saying that you don't want this review board is basically co-signing that supremacy and back the blue. And we're not going to do that until we get justice in our own communities as well.
Minnie Caruth.
Minnie Caruth. I live in Lee Kleinman's district. I had a handout for each of you, which has been sent to you from me via email already, and I brought it today to be given to you again, and a quote from my husband, which you hadn't received yet. He couldn't be here because of the storm that kept him out of Dallas today. We have met with our new chief, and I feel that she's going to give Dallas all her heart and all her Christian beliefs. And if you give her the opportunity to handle this situation herself, she will. I know that she's for this board, but I think she's going to find that it's going to get in her way and hinder building a good police department, which has lost many, many experienced officers because of the way they have been scrutinized. And every video camera, every cell phone is on them every minute of every day, and every television station has a citizens reporter which anyone can go to. And when my brother was murdered, not in this city, there was not proper police follow-up. My family didn't feel. So we went to the police chief. It didn't do any good. So we went to the city council there. That didn't do any good. It is your responsibility to help us when we need it. It is not your responsibility to strap taxpayers with more pay for something that should be done by citizens who believe and were raised on peanut butter, as I was many times, and my daughters were too, to pay for additional salaries for people who should step up to the plate and take the responsibility. From my husband, his comment is, his family came to Dallas in 1984. They have supported and created the Dallas Police Review Board.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
Kevin Hicks. Not present. Brian Williams.
Mayor Rawlings, Council, thank you for the time to speak today. I'm Dr. Brian Williams. I'm the current chair of the Citizens Police Review Board for Dallas. I was appointed by Mayor Rawlings in December 2017 and approved by all of you by, I hope it's a unanimous vote. I do not know. I recognize that when I started this job, I didn't know quite what I was getting into. But over the last year and a half, I've learned quite a lot, and it's made me respect and appreciate the city I call my home even more. Now, the board is made up of, attorneys, real estate people, cybersecurity experts. Some of us are retired. Some of us have full-time jobs. But you know this. because you've appointed each of us to our positions. I've also had time to spend speaking to people from all over the city, both for and against reform. I'm sure I've heard every version of an argument about what we should be doing here. I believe this is important. I'm speaking to you as a citizen who has unique insight, unlike anyone else in this room, or you've probably heard up to this point. I believe it is important. And if you feel that City Council's purview is to ensure that everyone in the city of Dallas, regardless of their district or their race or their class, is entitled to feel safe and secure in their communities and their homes, I hope you will vote yes on this agenda item. If you believe that the Dallas Police Department plays an important role in ensuring public safety, you still must vote yes. And if you believe that public trust is important to ensure that mission happens at its best possible way, then you must vote yes on this ordinance. It should be unanimous, it should be without debate, and we should show the same degree of courage that Chief Hall has shown when she has said she's for 21st century policing, as well as ensuring she has a world-class police department. This will help make that happen as long as we work together, moving forward with progress and unity. And it cannot happen until we say yes on this ordinance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Edwin Robinson.
Mr. Williams, I want to say thank you for your service, by the way. You've done a great job. Thank you. Pastor?
Once again, Council, thank you for allowing me to be here. First, I want to say that thank you to you all who voted yes for the earned paid sick time ordinance. We really appreciate your vote. Your vote was a vote for the people today. I also want to say to the mayor's comments about my comments, those who know me and who have sat with me, met with me, understand that, as the mayor said, I'm usually a very logical, pragmatic individual who speaks from a place of moral acuity and Christian principle for the sake of the people. My outburst today was spurred on because I get quite frustrated when I hear people talk about the people who I love and say things like they should just get new jobs. And so that frustrated me. I apologize for my outburst, but do not apologize for my passion. On the context of the Citizens Police Oversight Board, it's quite simple. Likewise, I have another quite logical, pragmatic argument. The reality is none of us know what's going to happen when the next critical incident happens. And the history says it will happen. The reality is you've seen that the community already has distrust, right? The reality is this, simply this. Give the community what the community is asking for. If it doesn't work out, it's on us. But if you do not give the community what we're asking for, and it doesn't work out at the next critical incident, it will be on you, and we will be back. This is a simple fix. You all have heard the testimony. It's been 20 years in the making, thanks to Ms. Diane Ragsdale. We're here now. Let's make the right decision. Let's do it for the people. Lastly, I'll say I really appreciate the work that all of you have done listening. I've been in a lot of the briefings that have been here. You all have listened well. You've asked good questions. And today, I believe you all are going to make the right vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Diane Benjamin. Diane Benjamin, not present. Carol Haynes.
Carol Haynes, Hickory Creek. I'm co-founder of Citizens Matter. Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, if Citizens Police Review Board is expanded in any way, we will be handing over the DPD and the safety of Dallas residents and visitors to those who want to use this entity to bully police and to punish officers. There's a coalition that is spearheading this expansion, and one of those persons has been just recently had another arrest with the Dallas police, has had multiple altercations with the police. Members of this coalition, and most likely Mr. Alexander, are going to want their place at the table on the expanded review board.
Ma'am,
Houston's crime rate
well, hold on. Stop the clock.
Motion for removal, Mayor.
Let me handle this. we've got to make sure that we respect people's time, okay? Now, do you see her up there? I'm this close to asking you to be removed. But I'm going to be patient with you and assume you didn't mean to interrupt us like that and let her speak. But the next person that does that, fair warning, I'm going to ask them to be removed because we're going to do this right around here. Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Houston's crime rate was falling until they created a Citizen Police Review Board. It has now risen a troubling 20%. Dallas is having a very difficult time hiring and keeping officers. And if you really want to expand this Communist Party USA originated review board that was created many decades ago, we can be sure that police officers will flee Dallas and be hiring new ones will be totally out of the question. Please listen to the people. Please do not expand this review board. Thank you for your time.
Pamela Grayson, not present. This concludes your speakers on this item, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion, Mr. McGue.
Move approval.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion, Mr. McGue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is an extremely significant moment for our city, for our community, for our police department. And I, for one, just want to thank each and every one of the people involved in this who have advocated, who've shown up, who've listened, and who have engaged in a process that helped this thing move forward. I think in many ways, the way we did this here in Dallas is better than it's been done anywhere across the country. And I think that we will see a board that functions in a way that helps do exactly what many of the commenters were saying today, that improves the transparency, increases the trust, and helps the community to understand that we do have one of, if not the best, police force in this entire country. I want to thank Chief Hall, John Fortune, and every single member of the coalition that showed up and participated in these discussions. They were respectful. People advocated strongly. People weren't willing to give in on issues they believed in strongly. Each and every one of the associations, Mike Mata, who's here, he advocated strongly. He continued to advocate for the positions that were important to the officers. And at the end of the day, I think where we ended up is a place with this board that will, not anybody is happy with everything, but I think it's a place where it will function for our city and accomplish the goals that we need. I appreciate Ms. Ragsdale, who did start this and who continues to lead in this space. Appreciate all those that have come before in this discussion. And really, this is just the beginning. This is, it's all about how this thing plays out moving forward and who we get on the board. Dr. Williams, your leadership, who we get in these positions through the city manager's office, and the implementation of this is going to be crucial. And I think everybody who has been engaged up until this point will remain engaged to make sure that as a result of the work we've done here, the city of Dallas will be a safer place to live. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Kingston.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And to add to that long list of people who really are responsible for what I think is an excellent proposal, Mr. McGue's leadership was invaluable. I'm so impressed. Mayor Pro Tem Casey Thomas was a real leader on this issue, and Chief Hall knocked the cover off of this one. She did a really good job with this. But I also want to add my thanks to the existing Police Review Board. After giving y'all nothing to do for years and years, we probably took 100 hours out of your 2019 so far, and your service has been noticed and is far beyond what you signed up for and what you should be required to do. We thank you very much for all your help. And I just want to echo Mr. McGue's statements about Diane Ragsdale, without whom none of this conversation would be at the place it is today. We value your input and look forward to more of it as we seek to perfect this proposal. I've yet to vote on a perfect policy proposal, but I feel really good about this one. and we'll be looking forward to supporting Mr. Mague's motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Gates.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Magoo. And I know Mr. Thompson worked on this as well to get to the point we are today. When it was initially presented to us, we had a lot of concerns and a lot of, and I was really concerned on the impact it was going to have on our force, as well as stepping into. No, it had too much overreach. I was not supportive of the subpoena power. And I didn't feel like we talked to enough entities, groups, before we moved forward. And I know we put pause. We had some more community meetings, and a lot of changes were made. We made sure that the rank and file understood how this changes would be impacted, and the independence it would have. And it still leaves our chief accountable for the rank and file, and holding them accountable. It's not a police review board that they report to. They report to her. So I respect a lot of you that have come down and talked on both sides of this issue, and the changes that we were able to make, and that they've been strongly supported by our police associations. I think we have to have a mechanism that people can file complaints, and that they're looked into, and that I was concerned about having staff at first, but now I understand this staff is going to be reporting to the city manager, and they're going to be professional and give us some, be able to give the background to the police policies. So I think that's a positive. I think we're going to have to monitor it and its effect on our making sure it's doing what the public wants it to do, as well as the officers. And lastly, so I just want to make sure, though, my understanding is there's regarding investigative power. How would you describe the investigative power, Mr. Brodnick, with this new group? I mean, there's no criminal investigation, is that correct?
And I'm going to defer to the chief and or John Fortune to let them
Okay,
explain
thanks.
in detail.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you. And I know I've been communicating a lot with John over this issue the last couple of weeks.
Good morning. As it relates to the investigation, they investigate the Dallas Police Department still maintains the investigation.
Okay.
The OPO will monitor those investigations. As it relates to the critical investigations, the same process works.
The same process that's currently underway is maintained.
Yes, the investigation is by the Dallas Police Department with the monitor, who is the individual that has the super special skills and that is selected by the city manager. That is the individual that will oversee the critical incident.
Okay, so the monitor, but the investigator is the way we've been doing it now. We're just going to assure that it's been fair for all parties involved.
With that monitoring process, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you for answering those questions.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins.
Thank you. Again, Mr. Magoo, great job done, but I also want to thank the community, for coming out and to listen to, Dr. Williams, speaking also with you, Diane Rasdale. If it was not for the community, we would not be here today. We're here to serve the community, make sure the community had trust in our police officer. And Chief Hall, for you and Mike Marler to sit down and break bread again with associations, that's a good thing also, because we got to look up to the association and to the chief of the police to make sure they are doing the right thing. Everyone got to check the box, and everyone got to make sure that we do trust our police officer, and we also trust his review board. But also with you, City Manager, TC, you're going to have a responsibility to make sure that staff is supported. And we got to make sure we do have a correct staff, just the staff that is experienced and do know what's going on. And that is very important when we do have transition and changes. Alan Magoo, you did a great job listening and talking and pulling this together. But one issue that I look at and I see is that when will the citizens of Dallas have trust in this board. The citizen got to have trust in this board. It's all about the citizen. It's all about the citizen of the city of Dallas who believe that it's a process that in place that everyone will have a fair shot at reality, what is going on. Until we realize that the citizen in the community is important than anything else, the safety of the city, but also the trust. We got to build trust back into the community and the citizen. Trust. We got to build trust. And it's seen so many times that we, the citizen, we, the community, do not trust the police officer, don't even trust the council, don't even trust the staff here. But we got to build a relationship. We got to cross that bridge and make sure that we are one great city. We don't want to be the tale of two cities, the north, south, east, west, and north. But we got to make sure that we're working together. But again, Chief Hall, great. Mike Marler, great for y'all working together, but also bring the community to working together on the same account. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Felder.
Before there was Botham John, there was Etta Mae Collins, a 70-year-old Sunday school teacher who had called the police to her home because of a burglary in process. Ms. Collins was shot twice and killed by an officer that had been on the force less than 1 year. She was the 25th citizen of the city of Dallas that was shot by a police officer and killed in 1986. All of them were African American. After that shooting, there was a call for a congressional hearing regarding police abuse in the city of Dallas, convened by Congressman John Conyers. After that hearing, the Police Review Board was born. That was 33 years ago. This body, the Police Review Board, has to change. It has to get more power. It has to have more teeth. Those who have come to the microphone, you have to put on someone else's shoes to understand how this has affected the African American community in the city of Dallas. Use your frame of reference. I heard a comment with regard to what it would cost. There is no price, there is no cost to keep all of the citizens safe in the city of Dallas. So money is not an issue here. Second of all, this police review board, the powers, the increased powers, could very well exonerate officers that have been wrongfully accused. It is not anti-police. It is for the safety of everyone, for the citizens, and as a check and balance. In this country, we have to have checks and balances, especially on those bodies of government that have authority to take a life. And so I want to thank Walter Higgins. Changa, as everyone knows him, happens to be a constituent of mine, for his leadership on the coalition. And before him, again, like everyone else has given credit to, former Councilwoman Diane Ragsdale, who led the call 33 years ago for the congressional hearings. To those who are listening, to those who are watching, this is not anti-police. This is for everyone. This is for you to be safe, for the police officers who have been wrongfully accused to be exonerated, for the citizens to be protected and safe, This is a bridge builder to bring about a sense of trust that was broken long ago. This is not new. And so, as you think about it, please don't put a price on it. Don't limit it to what it is going to cost, because a life is priceless. A peace of mind is priceless. And the image of the city of Dallas to corporate America that wants to move here is priceless. We have to have a city that is perceived as safe, that is perceived as giving justice to everyone, citizens as well as police. Now, the citizens, the police, their job is to serve and protect. And so this will give them and the citizens a tool to use in order to do their jobs better, to serve and protect. Thank you.
Mr. McGue, Ms. Arnold.
Thank you. I will support, and I do support the Police Review Board as we're going to vote today. But I just a few minutes since I have them, I am here, and all of us are here as an advocate for issues that affect our citizens from sunrise to sunset. One of those primary issues is public safety. Many of us have been here long enough to know that on every survey and every conversation, public safety is the top of the issue. And so I want to just reiterate, and I'm going back to the days where I was a government teacher, and I'm going to throw this out here. We cannot have a city, nor can we live in the city of Dallas without a police department, a police force. That is a fact. But as we move through this city day to day, we understand it is not a utopian society. We're dealing with human beings. And so with that, this is an ever-changing process, and I hope we understand that. It is not perfect. But I want to underscore as an official, I am not anti-police. I am understanding that I am here to bridge the gap, to build relationships, to strengthen the dialogue and the relationship between the community and the public safety infrastructure. And I'm committed to doing that. This is one reform, and I will also say that in order for us to recruit, I am going to continue to fight, push for revenue streams so that we can recruit and retain the officers that many of you speak of. And right now, it's not healthy for us to go year to year trying to figure out how to compensate or to support a police force. And so whatever it takes, I'm going to keep pushing for the research that's needed to retain these officers. But at the end of the day, I can offer and thank also Chief and Mr. Mata for their work. Programs like NPO officers are successful, and we're going to continue to encourage neighborhood groups to get organized. This is one way to build a dialogue and relationship with officers. I'm also going to offer here, while you're here today, many of you in the audience, don't just stop here with your advocacy here at City Council. You have an opportunity to advocate on the state level. You have an opportunity also to participate in the system. Part of that system is the grand jury. That impacts oftentimes the outcome of a case. So I am proud today to support this Police Review Board, and once again, it is a process. It can be amended. It can be changed. But we're going to start today just trying it. Once again, thank you for the staff. Chief, I'm going to support her. I'm going to support Mr. Mike Mata and the union, and as I've told everyone, if you're right, I'm there. If you're wrong, I'm not, and I'm going to speak to that. But we are not a perfect society, and so let's work together and stop hating on each other so that we can move forward in this city, a city that we can be proud of. So I want to leave it with that, Mayor, and if I have to come back, I will, but I will vote today for the Police Review Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kleiman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I do also want to thank the Chief, John Fortune, and staff who worked so hard on this. I want to thank the existing board and the folks that also worked hard to get us to a place where we can find some balance between the needed transparency and ability for citizens to reach out to a group that is independent of the police department while protecting the ability of our officers who do a job, a very hard job that we ask them to do, and trying to find that balance ground. I want to thank Councilmember Magoo for ushering this process through. I know it wasn't easy, but I do believe we've come to a good place. I also want to keep people to keep in mind that much like anything else around this council, if something doesn't work, we do have the opportunity to improve it and make it better. In this case, the Police Review Board wasn't really working to the best interest of our citizens, and so we're making those adjustments and changes that I think will benefit everybody. I've heard from a lot of constituents, several who are here today, and I very much thank you all for being here and advocating your positions as well, and I've heard them from all sides. But this is something that we actually do have the power to do something about. We do have oversight of the police department that work directly with the city council, so I am very happy to work and support a resolution that actually has a benefit in effect. So appreciate the folks that were able to stay to support this component of our council agenda, and with that I will be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Narvaez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just briefly wanted to first thank my colleague, Mayor Pro Tem Thomas. I know that he's been working on this for well over a year, maybe two, maybe longer, but I know once the task force was formed, was a little over a year ago, and I know that I'm sure he's very disappointed that he's not going to be here to be part of this vote today, but I'm sure in spirit he would be voting for it. So I also want to thank Mr. Magoo for his leadership in pushing this through and making sure that we had excellent dialogue. I want to thank Officer Mata, DPD, and Chief Renee Hall for staying at the table and for working out the differences with the community. I want to thank Changa, Jessirobo, Pastor Robinson, and all the other members of the task force because for some, there are hard feelings about police officers, and for others, this was about building trust and building bridges. And I think that this is a good way to really show that when our officers are sitting down at the table with our members of our community, that they're working together and they came up with a good policy. Everybody didn't get what they wanted, but they came up, you compromised, and this was a citizen brought together in conjunction with our Dallas police officers and our police chief. And I think that's what makes this a really positive and good outcome. We have a really amazing police department. I've been in this role a couple of years, and when I'm all over this city, I hear nothing but praise about our police officers as far as the way they conduct themselves with our citizens and our residents throughout the city. Do we have issues here and there? Absolutely. It's a big police force. And, everybody's not perfect, but we're able to deal with those issues and take care of them. And I think that together, when those things happen, you're going to have a little bit more say-so in what's going on in order to review that. And this was a 33-year-old policy that former Councilwoman Ragsdale got started, and we appreciate that. And I think she's nodding her head in agreement. It was time to update it, make changes happen. The city's not the same like it was 33 years ago, and we need to make sure those things came across for everybody to better understand. I will be in support of this today, and I'm glad that we brought together the community, because when the community comes together, we seem to always get really positive outcomes and really great policy when we include you all. And so those of you, whether you were part of the task force or you're just here because you support it, thank you for working together with our police officers so we could get a positive ordinance to pass. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan.
Thank
Yeah, thank you very much. I first want to say thanks to Dr. Brian Williams for his hard work, diligence, and concern and leading the charge in this issue. And I also want to thank all the parties who worked through this challenging issue. A lot of credit goes to those that sat down in a civil, respectful, democratic way in creating a mechanism that would be fair and respectful to the Dallas Police Department and to all citizens. You know, I still believe in the Dallas Police Department. I think we have the greatest police department in the country. It is a human institution, though, and there's going to be mistakes. Sometimes, unfortunately, in the system, bad people get in that system and then have to be moved out of that system. But I believe most of the time, they get it right. And we have a lot of layers, you know, in our society to try to help get that right. We went out and did a nationwide search to find a great police chief, so we've got her in place. John Fortune that oversees, you know, the public safety department, he is a very capable, well-meaning individual. We also have the internal affairs division for the police department with lots of integrity there. We also have periodic grand juries that are seated, and they have the difficult, challenging task to sit down and try to make sense out of a mess of things that happen sometimes because humans collide, and that's unfortunate. But we also have criminal and civil courts as a mechanism to do that. But you know, how much will this new oversight board cost annually? I don't know. It's been said that it doesn't matter. Well, it does because we have limited, scarce resources, but we need to also make sure that it's cost effective and respectful to the taxpayers of the citizens. And I'm going to be honest, you know, my first knee-jerk reaction here was to have not created this extra level of oversight, you know, because of the things I've already stipulated. I think we have a lot of different layers, checks and balances and so forth. But I knew that something was broken in this city. I've known this for a long time. And rather than say Houston, we have a problem, in this case, Dallas, we have a problem. And we've got to look at ourselves, you know, introspectively and try to see what went wrong. You know, where did the trust, where did the accountability go? You know, where did the dispensation of justice go? Where did it veer off the track? You know, we've got to have a better management of critical incidences, and that's really what's led us here. And I pray that the police is not, or I'm sorry, that the chief is not relinquishing her authority and control of the department. She indicates that she is not. She says she has to be comfortable with this, and she says that she is. But we also want to make sure that these people, these three folks that's going to be part of this tribunal, that they earn their pay, that they're kept busy, and they're just not there twiddling their thumbs. And we want to make sure that they they do the hard work to look at these cases. There may be 200 to 400 cases that they might look at in any given year. Hopefully it's going to come down to just a handful of cases that they're going to really, truly delve into, but we just want to make sure that we get competent, reliable people. Nobody should just be able to decide that they're going to have, you know, the authority and the power over the police department. And all of you, if you really are honest with yourself, you're going to say, police are not going to come to work here in this city or any city unless there's a fair oversight mechanism. So we've got to get this right. We've had a challenge filling those ranks of 700 or 800 additional officers. We've got the pay fixed, and we're going to make, I think, constant improvements there. Our pension is now fixed. That's a good thing. We need a new academy, and that costs money. There's a lot of that. We need more police cars. We need more police equipment, and we're going to get those items to them. But if we err and we have such a vigilant oversight group that all of a sudden that the men and women that make up our fine police department, if at some point they decide that it's just totally unfair, then they're going to move on to another city. And we've seen this happen. This isn't just a pipe dream. This is happening across this country where we've had these oversight boards and they've just started walking away from the job. We can't handle that. We have 3,000 officers. We want to increase the number of officers here. I'm going to support this because I think it is a balanced measure, and I'd like to just kind of have a wait-and-see attitude to see really, is this thing going to work? And hopefully it will. And hopefully we'll regain the trust and the accountability that we need to have. Thank you for the time, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll let Mr. McGue close out, but I'll say my piece, and I'll let you have the last word since you really led her, and I want to thank you for your work. I'm proud of how we went about this as a city. This took time, a lot of meetings. This is a process that we're doing, and now something different is going to happen in this city. Something substantive is going to change. Everybody talks about the community. The whole community is the city of Dallas, and the whole community had points of views. Different people had those things, and I think it was incorporated with them. I'm proud with all of us about our Dallas police. Thank you, Mr. Mata, for leading the DPA in this part of this conversation. And because of your endorsement and Chief Hall's endorsement and others, I'm enthusiastically supporting. So bring us home, Mr. McGue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to delay this any longer, but I do want to say I remember the first meeting when I met Chonga Higgins, and when he came up with his number of positions and things that he was fighting for, and he had this look in his eye of passion, experienced passion, but also this look of, but nothing's really going to happen. And it's been really one of the things I'm most proud of, to have walked through this with him and with my colleague, Mayor Pro Tem Casey Thomas, who has taken this on from the beginning. I've been extremely thankful to be able to work with him on this. When we first said, all right, here's what we need to do. We just need to get everybody in the same room together. That's not always a good idea, but in this case, and I believe it's the start for most of the dialogue we should have in this city. But Casey didn't wink. He just said, let's go, let's do it. And I was so thankful for that, for his involvement to make that happen. We had all the associations involved. We had certainly Terrence Hopkins with the BPA. But I also want to say another big difference was we had the city attorneys involved. And I want to thank all those in the city attorney's office that engaged with this and pulled in and were able to answer some of these questions quickly and thoroughly. We did have the district attorney involved as well in the conversations, and I'm thankful for that. So I'll end with Casey. He texted me something he wanted me to read for him. Again, sorry he's not here, especially for this significant event, but he says, "It was a pleasure to work with everyone involved to get to this historical moment. We will be remembered as the council that finished the work that was started back in the 80s. I regret that I'm not here to vote, but I support this 100%. And so with that, I want to support Mr. Thomas as well.
Thank you. And I forgot one thing. No one's thanked our city manager. There were times that I didn't know if this was going to happen, and he really pulled folks together. So if you don't mind, I think Mr. Broadneck appreciates your effort too. So let's all vote.
Please start voting. 10 have voted. 12 have voted. 13 have voted. All have voted. With all 14 members present voting in favor, Mayor Pro Tem Thomas absent, the motion passes, Mr. Mayor. This concludes your morning agenda.
Thank you. A couple of things. Thank you all for being here. Back up here, there you go. Would you stand up? This is DeSoto Council Member Candace Quarles, and I want to say welcome to the Dallas City Council for things. Okay, City Council, we got to keep working, okay? I'm going to give everybody 10 minutes to go back to the lunchroom, grab their lunch.